case study standpoint, since you guys are all familiar with RapidScale, we have two that we're going to talk about today. First one's in healthcare. Anybody working in the healthcare space today? Yes? Yeah? What do you guys do in the healthcare space? Typically voice and data networks or equipment?
Voice and data, hosted voice.
Hosted voice? WAN services?
Yeah, voice and MPLS.
Okay. So one of the big things that makes cloud so effective in the healthcare space is there's a lot of compliance and regulations that these guys have to deal with. So the biggest one is HIPAA. Y'all familiar with HIPAA? Patient Protection Act, right? We had a client come to us through a sales partner. They are 700 users. They're in Southeast. They spend, with us, their spend is about $40,000 a month, so they're a good sized client. They had gone through a HIPAA audit and got crushed. So they take care of folks in their homes, they're a hospice, and they've got all these nurses traveling in cars to go see people. And of course, when they're traveling in cars and you don't have the right technology, you're carrying handwritten notes and everything else. They would have to go back to their offices, which are like 7 offices throughout the Southeast, and then they'd go in and they'd fill in all those notes and paper and turn it all into the computer, etc. Well, you can imagine when the audit came through, they went, yeah, you guys are breaking HIPAA violations here, 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 and here. So the customer came to his trusted advisor and said, how do I get out of this? We're in big trouble. Sales partner brought us in. We looked at it, immediately said, well, there's a couple of things going on. Number one, you haven't refreshed any of your servers or your storage in like 8 years. So you're at a point where you need to refresh all this hardware regardless. You can do that traditional CapEx, or you can do that in the cloud. The other piece of the problem is the way you're running your business, having all these nurses drive to 7 or 8 places, carry those papers in their car, and then come back in, extremely inefficient, and you're breaking the HIPAA regulations, so you might want to change the way you do that. Sales partner came to us, said, what can we do, how can we do this? We proposed to them a full virtual desktop, cloud desktop solution, desktop as a service, where we created mobility for all of those nurses, so they all have applications now on their iPads. So when they go in and they see their patient, they're doing everything they need to do on the iPad. Nothing is stored on the iPad, it's all in the cloud. And then they don't even have to go back to their offices. So we kind of shifted them into a total telecommuting workforce, where they now go into the offices, I think it's once a week or once every 2 weeks for team meetings, strategy sessions, etc. The efficiency for them blew up through the roof. Literally within 4 months of 4 months of us completing our installation and getting them up, which is about how much time it takes to get everybody trained and rolling, they had another audit. Crushed the audit. Flying, got through everything. They went and they really looked at where did they fail before. Well, they got the places they failed. They looked and said, your new solution is the solution all hospices should be using because they all face the same challenges you guys face. So, moral of the story for us is, sales partner was listening to what the customer was saying, because the customer's concern wasn't about his network, although the sales partner was trying to sell him an MPLS network. That's not where the concern was. The concern was 100% about this HIPAA audit that I just failed, because this will cost me a lot of money. So that's the first case study. Any questions, comments, thoughts?
So is RapidScale able to address every single issue that they fail?
Well, what we do from a HIPAA standpoint is we're your data transport and your data security, right? So we encrypt everything in flight and at rest. And with the security policies that we have in place with our back office people, there's about, of the HIPAA legislation, we probably have to go through about 60 questions, and we surpass all of those. So that's one big piece of it. The part that really hurt them, the real failure part, well, that failure was there, but the one that they really were upset about was the way the nurses were transporting this stuff in their cars. Because they weren't, using locked briefcases or anything like that. They had folders, patient's name on it, and it's sitting on the chair next to them in the car. And yes, when they moved to the iPad, that changed that entire setup, moved everything over.
So is that your software on the iPad?
No, it's their software. It's the software that they've been using for their ERP and their medical records software, EMR. electronic medical records. So all of that was all they had that in place. Big thing for me on this particular client, and we haven't been able to really peel the onion back because now that the client's happy, it's kind of like we're charging forward. I want to know how much more efficient they got by not having to have those nurses go back. You know, how much trouble was there in the business there? You know, if I'm a nurse and I'm driving 50, 60 miles to see somebody, hell, I'm a sales guy. I drive 50, 60 miles to see somebody. If you told me I had to go back home, back to the office at the end of my day and go fill out paperwork, I'd be like this, ain't happening. I'll fill out the paperwork next time I get in the office, right? So I think there's a bigger piece here. I think we made the business a lot more efficient. We just don't know what those numbers are. Okay, second case study for y'all. Anybody work in the hospitality sector? Fantastic. This one's neat because we think there's a really big play for hospitality, but again, it doesn't come down to, so I'll ask you, you're in the hospitality sector. How do people like to spend money in the hospitality sector? They don't at all, right? They don't ever want to spend a dime, but they want to charge really good rates for their hotels, right? They're all focused on wireless access for the rooms. So I think he said 3 minutes, I'll be quick. Boutique hotel in Los Angeles, California. Sales partner brought us in, same kind of a situation. They needed to refresh their gear, it was really old, but they didn't want to write a check for 75 or 100,000. So the sales partner basically said, hey, I'm not going to win the business selling it this way. He's a bar. He goes, I can't sell this, but I can make it as a service. So I want to partner with you guys and make it as a service. We said, great, we can do that. We went in, did our pitch and everything, and of course the VP of the operation went like this. Oh, no, we can't afford that kind of money. So Homa, our channel manager, took a step back and said, tell me about the challenges you guys have. What's the biggest challenge in your business that technology might be able to help? And he said, well, the biggest pain point is we host conventions. And when the conventions come in, they kind of all come in at once. And this place is charging $700, $800 a night for their hotel rooms. Because they all come in at once and we have 2 stations to check our guests in. So imagine you're spending $800 a night and you're standing in line for an hour to get checked in. You're going to be a little irritated. I am. So she went back, talked to our solutions engineering team and said, what can we do here? And we said, again, this is a virtual desktop solution. Let's get virtual desktops loaded on all their iPads, and when they get that rush, now the general manager, the catering manager, whomever is on site can actually walk out to the guests and log them in and check them in right there from the iPad. The minute we shared that with them and we got to the pain point, they were like this, that's a no-brainer. Sign the paperwork, let's get this thing rolling, because this costs me money every single month because the customer doesn't come back to me. So I guess my big pitch to you guys about the cloud, it's a shift in your mindset. It's not about saving money. It's about increasing productivity and efficiency.